Apparently, Elon Musk should go to jail because slavery, last time I checked, is illegal. And you aren't allowed to own people like Elon just did, even if they happen to work for the BBC. So let's watch this very interesting conversation. As you can see, this is from the Twitter Spaces. And you have Elon Musk speaking with Mr. James, who works for the barely British corporation.
Recently you were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that something that you want to address?
So this is a lie that I keep hearing the mainstream media say over and over again until people believe it. The idea that because Elon Musk has fired a lot of the old guard, especially the ones from the Trust and Safety Council, that there's more hate speech on Twitter. Now, as I recall, there actually was more hate speech on Twitter after Elon Musk took over because a lot of left-leaning people, and you would see them with the blue check mark and the fact that they got like their pronouns in the bio and they had like all these signifiers that they are progressive, they would start spamming the N-word, they would start spamming hate speech, and it was in a way to own Elon Musk, to go like, haha, look, now hate speech is allowed on the platform. But in reality, it wasn't, and those people got banned. They came back, though, once Elon had the amnesty. But the point stands. There is no hate speech on Twitter, at least not noticeable. Definitely not compared to what used to be before. I mean, I don't even see white nationalists on Twitter. I'm sure they exist, but I just don't have them in my feed, right? And you're going to see that this journalist himself doesn't see the hate speech either.
Talking about. I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
just a personal anecdote, like what do you do? I don't.
Personally,
So the reason that Elon Musk asked this is that he is so confident that there is no hate speech that he can actually go to a journalist and say like, okay, well, give me something. And if this journalist actually had something to give, it could be very damaging for Elon Musk. But nope, nothing.
For you, I would see I get more of that kind of content, yeah, personally. But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
You see more hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like, or hateful. What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction to something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist.
I just want to point out that this is what journalists want to ban. Slightly racist or slightly sexist. So basically South Park. Like, South Park jokes, almost all of them, are slightly racist or slightly sexist. But like, that's the thing, it shouldn't be slightly. Like, what is slightly? Either it is or it isn't. Like, you should have clear definitions of the content that you think should be banned. And apparently, this journalist goes like, well, something that incites a reaction, something slightly... So jokes. Memes. Ridiculous.
Those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
Very good point from Elon Musk, right? And listen how the journalist is trying to get himself out of this.
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples.
Right.
Right. So I want you to see how he's trying to weasel his way out of it. He's saying, well, I never say that I wanted things that are slightly racist or sexist to be banned. It's like, okay, but you're implying it from the context of the conversation, because the conversation is about the fact that Twitter has fewer moderators, and because of that, there is more hate speech on the platform. And when asked to give examples, you're like, well, my feed is filled with things that are slightly racist or slightly sexist. So the implication is that if Twitter wouldn't have banned those moderators, your hate speech wouldn't have had the slightly racist, slightly sexist stuff. Which, by the way, I would like to point out that the slightly racist, slightly sexist things existed even under Jack Dorsey. Like, this is not something new. My opinion about Elon Musk's Twitter is that it's the same as old Twitter, except leftists are angry. And they can't even articulate why. But literally, it's the same rules. You know, the only thing that's different, I guess, is maybe things haven't gotten worse. Which is literally what I've been saying in my videos. You know, like the worst thing that can happen with Elon Musk's Twitter is that nothing changes. But I guess like leftists are upset. The good thing is that it hasn't gotten worse. And of course, if you actually report problematic things like CP, they actually do get banned now. Like I remember back in the day, there was this controversy where this person who used to be underage, I think he was like 14, had boot sex with someone else, and they videotaped it. Now, he's an adult, and he found that video of his on Twitter. Apparently, the person that he had boot sex, you know, did the revenge porn or whatever. So he's like, dude, this is me, right? I'm an adult now, but at the time of the video, I was an underage person, so can Twitter please remove it? They refused to remove it. He had to actually go to a lawyer to send a legal request for Twitter to take it down. And it got into the papers. Like, this is what we're talking about, you know? This is the old guard. And the BBC didn't care about that, you know? Like, they didn't interview Jack Dorsey. It's like, how do you feel? Like, what were your moderation team doing? Blah, blah, blah. None of that. But now that Elon Musk is there, it's like, oh, well, I see a lot of increase in racism on Twitter. Can you give me an example? No, but it's there.
One example.
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it. And actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only.
Yeah. So he doesn't use it because he doesn't like it. Man, if there was a reason for me not to use something, I would remember the reason.
You look at my following. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example. Not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
oh my god, such a short memory these journalists have. You don't use something for 3 or 4 weeks and all of a sudden you can't remember. As if it's not a platform that you've been using for the last couple of years as a journalist.
You see the hateful content?
Because I've been using it. I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Because then you must have at some point seen before you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying...
I say so that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't say a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet. And yet you claimed the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No. What I claimed... What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether...
Okay, so his argument is that there is a lot of hateful content on Twitter. He can't remember any, not even one example, but there's a lot of it. And he has like slightly sexist, slightly racist stuff on his timeline, but he just can't point out to it. And when pushed, he's like, yeah, but like other organizations also believe what I mean. And like, well, what if you go to other organizations, right? And you ask people from there and they say, well, yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the hatred either, but all the other organizations have. Like, I don't know, man. Like, to me, if someone were to tell me, like, all these organizations would tell me that it's raining outside and I look out the fucking window and it's not raining, then maybe I would think that my own senses are more accurate than whatever organization exists. I don't care if it's the Pope. And by the way, there is this thing called manufactured consensus. So, for example, this has been experimented on students by a university professor. Like, the professor shows this to the class and say, I want you to say that it's blue the next time someone walks into the class, right? So someone walks into the class, the professor shows the cup and goes like, what color is this? And then they go like, you, blue, 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 blue. And when they're asking that guy that just came in and he's not in on it, he's going to say blue. Because all the other people are saying that, right? So now you have this idea of manufactured consensus. Assuming that the journalist is not just being disingenuous, which is a major assumption, but still, you shouldn't use as an argument, yeah, but like everyone else is saying. Okay, well, if everyone else was saying that you're a nonce, does that make you a nonce? I don't think that's a good way of thinking and viewing things.
Whether it has on my feed or not. I mean, right, and you can look at something like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK.
Yeah, but like when the CEO of Twitter asks you to give one example of hate speech, then clearly he is very confident that there is no hate speech on the platform. At least not to the point where you would see it.
Okay. They will say that. So
Look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a
Right.
single example. You can name one.
right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
Then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting
You
anywhere.
literally said you
Of
experienced
course, it's not getting anywhere. You're getting BTFO'd.
more hateful content.
I think it did get somewhere. I think it did get somewhere to point out that you're a liar.
And then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
That's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know
this
this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw.
Yeah, but like, imagine this, right? Imagine that I would make the claim that Resident Evil 4 is full of bugs. People would give me like, can you name one bug? Like, no, but other people are claiming it. They would tell me to fuck off. And even if other people would say, well, Resident Evil 4 is full of bugs, if I can't find a single one, I would be like, well, I don't know what these people are talking about. They must be smoking.
A few weeks ago, I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation.
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, and it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations? And not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
Look at the
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
Right, no, so it's a good point, and I will tell you why, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, it's a whataboutery and blah, blah, blah. Why is Twitter being held to different standards than the journalists hold themselves? Doesn't that make any sense? So you have the BBC, which you would argue that it's more important than Twitter as a news organization. Like it reaches a huge segment of the public, and if they're literally concerned about misinformation, wouldn't it make sense that they would investigate themselves first before investigating other people? Or is it that they're allowed to play by whatever fucking standard they want? And at the same time, they get to hold other institutions up to higher standards. It's a really good point that Elon Musk is bringing up here. But anyway, this was a great roast by him. And yeah, like as you can see, the Texas listener here giving hearts and claps. And I'll see you guys in the comments section. Let me know what you think. Take care.